Today I'm having a look at a high-end power supply from Be Quiet. It's their Dark Power Pro 11 850 watt model. A very cool looking box that has plenty of pictures as well as features and specifications about the product on it. It's packaged very well. Included is a user's manual. On the right side, sandwiched between two pieces of quality foam, is the power supply. On the left, they include in this bag a number of Velcro ties, plastic cable ties, some fan leads, and screws. And by the way, all of these screws are black. They also include regular screws and thumb screws. An overclocking switch, I'll go over that a little later on. The power cord, and all of the sleeve leads. Now, the Dark Power Pro 11 line is currently available in wattages ranging from 550 all the way up to 1200. I'll be reviewing the 850 watt model today. Now, note, this is 850 watts, but it peaks out at 950 watts. So this power supply sits in the middle, but it would be more than enough for most. First, let's go over how wattage is determined, and to do so, we will need to talk about rails. Rails are basically well-regulated transformers which convert domestic current into the voltages that your computer system can use, and there are essentially two different rails, the 3.3/5 volt rail and the 12 volt rail. Now, in this particular case, the approximate maximum peak output of the 3.3/5 volt rail is 140 watts, and the 12 volt is 840 watts. The 3.3/5 volt rail is responsible for the motherboard, memory, PCI cards, and so on, while the 12 volt rail is responsible for the hard drives, optical drives, fans, CPU, video cards, etc. It's also important to know the peak amps on each rail. Well, in this particular case, the plus 3.3 volt and the plus 5 volt rails are 25 amps each, and it has 4 plus 12 volt rails. 1 and 2 are 30 amps, and 3 and 4 are 35 amps. However, this gets a bit interesting because the power supply has an option of switching to a single plus 12 volt rail using an overclocking key. This allows switchover between the quadruple plus 12 volt rails to a high performance single rail setup, and in this mode the single plus 12 volt rail is 70 amps. Now let's go through a number of important things to remember when selecting a power supply. One of the first things is wattage. You want to determine how much wattage you're going to require for the hardware that you will be installing. Now, generally speaking, a medium to high-end gaming rig would require a 500 to 700 watt power supply. For a hardcore system, select a power supply that's around 800 watts. If, however, you are building an extreme gaming rig with a top-of-the-line multiple video cards set up with lots of other hardware, select a power supply that's 1000 watts or greater. Second, it should be at or above 80% efficiency, and this power supply's efficiency is up to 92.7%, which is insane, and ultimately it means saving money. Now note that the standby drain on this is 0.1 watts. Impressive. It also meets the Energy Star 6 guidelines, fulfills the ERP 2014 guidelines, and the Zero Low design supports Intel's Deep Power Down C6 and C7 modes. Third, it should meet the latest ATX and other current standards, environmental directives, overvoltage, undervoltage, and other protections. This power supply meets all current standards. Fourth, choose a power supply that has APFC. Active power factor correction assists the power supply in being more efficient and therefore stable under load. APFC basically reduces total harmonics, corrects input voltage, and it allows for full input voltage range. Thankfully, this power supply has APFC. Fifth, there are 3 main certifications: 80 plus, NVIDIA SLI, and AMD Crossfire. Now, many of today's high-end power supplies like this one will meet one or more of these certifications, and this power supply is multi-GPU and NVIDIA hybrid ready, as well as NVIDIA SLI and AMD Crossfire certified. Also, it's 80 plus platinum certified, and that's why it's so efficient. It also supports the latest processors. Sixth, look for a power supply that uses Japanese capacitors because it ensures a much more reliable product than a power supply with low-grade capacitors. And this power supply uses 105-degree Japanese capacitors for maximum reliability and long life. Finally, get a power supply that has enough leads for your setup. Also consider a power supply with a modular design because it reduces the cable mess inside of the case. Also, Also, super important to get a power supply with a fantastic warranty, and this one comes with a 5-year warranty. This power supply has a black paint finish. There's a rubber bumper. This is where it gets mounted to the case. That will cut down on vibrations. As well, the housing is steel. They include a super quiet Silent Wings 3 135mm fan, and there's lots of ventilation holes, so this power supply will remain cool in almost any environment. And by the way, this fan is simply outstanding as it features an advanced fan frame, an airflow optimized fan blade, fluid dynamic bearing with a copper core, and a high quality 6-pole motor for less vibration. Oh, and the housing is dual layer with a rubberized sleeve, further enhancing the silence. So the fan and the housing, they work together for best air performance and quiet operation. And here's the power cable connection and the power switch. Now this power supply isn't completely modular because they've left the main motherboard lead hardwired into the power supply, and to be honest, you're going to need that lead anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Other than that, it is completely modular, and that is brilliant because you only need to use the leads required for your particular setup, which of course reduces the cable mess and thus increases airflow inside the case. Oh, and have a closer look at the great sleeving job. Look at how neat things are at the back of the power supply where the leads get connected. And speaking of leads, look at the hardwired one that comes out of the power supply. They have rubber around it so it's not going to chafe. Now, as I mentioned before, overclocking the power supply simply means taking it from a quadruple 12-volt rail setup to a single plus 12-volt rail setup. And to do so, you can use the included switch. This, of course, would get installed in the case's expansion slot at the back. You would just connect it like so, then install this, and then flip the switch. Or, if you don't want to use that, they have a little jumper cable here. You connect that like so. Now, the 4 included fan cables get connected like so. Simply plug them into the power supply, then connect them into the power supply's 4-pin Molex lead, and then the other end into the fan. Finally, have a listen to the fan. I'm super impressed with this power supply. It screams high-end, no question about it. It is 80 plus platinum certified, modular. The fan is quiet but awesome. Comes with a brilliant warranty. Japanese capacitors, I mean, it goes on and on and on. The only real negative is the cost. That's to be expected because it is a premium product. And oh, the leads. Well, I prefer flat, flexible leads because you can tuck them pretty much anywhere you want, but these are awesome. They've done a really good job on sleeving the cables. Overall, it's a 100% kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.